The second wildcard game this Saturday, I think, has a chance to be the most entertaining game all weekend. That is when the Los Angeles Chargers travel to Jacksonville to face off against the Jaguars and Trevor Lawrence. And I think this game is going to have a ton of fireworks and amazing storylines, including a rematch from the Jaguars' destruction of the Chargers 38-10 back in week number 3. But before we get into the content of today's video, if you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and drop a like on the video if you guys do enjoy it. I'm previewing all the wildcard weekend games, so if you are interested in knowing about other games, be sure to go check those out. But with all that being said, let's hop into the video about the Jacksonville Jaguars hosting the Los Angeles Chargers. Back in September was one of the most surprising games of the entire year when the Jaguars traveled to Los Angeles and put the stomping on the Chargers, beating them 38-10. Trevor Lawrence threw for 3 touchdowns in that game and had 262 yards against, at the time, a pretty solid Chargers defense. It is worth noting for the Chargers that Justin Herbert was not 100% whatsoever, and he probably shouldn't have played in the game. This was the week after he suffered that rib injury against the Chiefs, so I do think this time around it's going to be a very different ball game with Herbert 100% and him having a safety blanket back in Keenan Allen. Something I do think that could impact the game is Mike Williams' status. For whatever reason, Brandon Staley decided to play the Chargers starters for almost the entirety of the game on Sunday against the Broncos. So he got a little banged up with a back injury. It's said not to be super severe, but if he's not 100%, I think that does really impact the Chargers offense. They don't have a ton of great weapons on the outside. Keenan Allen has definitely taken a step back this year. I think he's still a solid wide receiver, but definitely not as fast and as explosive as he used to be. That is definitely something to monitor if Mike Williams cannot be 100% for the game. But what I think most people are very excited to see is the two quarterbacks face off against each other, Trevor Lawrence versus Justin Herbert. Trevor Lawrence has emerged as a fantastic quarterback this year. He was seen as a generational prospect, the best quarterback prospect since Andrew Luck, and this year you're seeing why. He ended the season with 4,100 yards, 25 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions with a 95.2 quarterback rating. And that is a huge jump up from his rookie year. And I think most people saw this coming now that Urban Meyer wasn't his head coach and now that they got some weapons. So it's been really fun to watch Trevor Lawrence grow this year, and I definitely think he solidified himself as a top 10 quarterback this season. Jaguars got a lot of hate in the offseason for a multitude of reasons for the signings that they made, and although I do agree that they may have overpaid for some players, that's really what you got to do when you're an up-and-coming franchise with no real appeal to players besides, the money and I guess being in Florida. So that's the reason why they had to overpay for Christian Kirk or a Zay Jones or a Brandon Sheriff. But all those players have had fantastic years, and their offense has been really fun to watch. I think what's most surprising though is the step that their defense has made. They have the 12th best scoring defense in the NFL, which is a massive leap from their 28th ranked defense from a season ago. And what I think is the most underrated move the Jaguars made all offseason was bringing in head coach Doug Peterson. He's got Super Bowl experience. He's worked with a ton of quarterbacks. He's gotten the most out of Carson Wentz. He's gotten the most out of Nick Foles. Getting an offensive mind who will not be a distraction for your team. He'll be a great leader. Players will want to play for him. He has experience winning a Super Bowl, what it takes to be a really good team. I think that's really important for a Jaguars organization that has no experience doing any of that. They always have a ton of turmoil there. They're always firing coaches and GMs, and getting a coach that has experience with all of that and help lead the way. And that's one thing that I really loved about Doug Peterson. So with some key veterans, a lot of young talent, and led by a top 10 quarterback in my eyes in Trevor Lawrence, the Jaguars are a very scary team in the playoffs, and they're going to be the home team for this matchup. With all the talent that the Jaguars have, I think that the Chargers may have the better overall roster. They've been very banged up this year, but they've gotten healthy towards the later stretch of the season, and we've seen them take off. They were 5-2 in their last 7 games, and I do believe if they had something to play for against the Broncos and they could have gotten a better seed by beating the Broncos, I believe they would have. So the Chargers could have easily entered the postseason rattling off 5 straight wins. So this team is red hot, it's peaking at the right time, and it's got a ton of key players back, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Joey Bosa finally returned against the Broncos after missing much of the season. He even got a sack in the game. He was going to be back and ready to go against the Jaguars. Derwin James played as well after missing the game against the Rams. So this defense is about as healthy as it's going to get heading into this playoff matchup. There's an outside chance that Rashawn Slater, the standout tackle for the Chargers, will be back as well, although I would not count on that, and the replacement has been pretty fantastic as well. But who they're blocking for, Justin Herbert, I think had a pretty good year considering all the elements he's had to deal with this season. I think more than any point in his career, he's been really criticized this year for kind of having a down year compared to his standards. We've become so accustomed to him putting up historic numbers and breaking record after record, and when he has a good season instead of a great season, season. We're all a little bit shocked about it. 68% completion percentage, 4,700 yards, 25 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions with a 93.2 quarterback rating is not a bad season whatsoever. And you combine that with the fact that he had a severe rib injury for multiple weeks. His team has had bad luck with injuries all season long, including his top 2 wide receivers missing a lot of the season. And then a play caller that's gotten a ton of criticism this year. I think if you went to SoFi Stadium in the middle of a Chargers game and asked every single Chargers fan there if they wanted to bring back Joe Lombardi, 99% of them would say no. It often seems like he does not maximize Justin Herbert's strength. His scheme doesn't fit Herbert too well. His play calling is questionable at times. Because if you do remember, Joe Lombardi was a part of the Saints staff for a long time with Sean Payton, and their quarterback was Drew Brees, who threw a lot of checkdowns, did not throw the ball down the field a whole lot. And a big part of Justin Herbert's game is his arm strength and his ability to push the ball down the field. I can definitely feel the frustration the Chargers fans have for Lombardi and his system with Herbert's play style. But Herbert has dealt with a lot this year, and he still put up pretty good numbers and led his team to the playoffs for the first time in his career. And after all he's done in the first 3 years and now making the playoffs, you really got to put some respect on his name and put him as a top 5 quarterback in the league. But I believe this game is going to come down to what offense can consistently make bigger plays. I think both defenses are solid. I think the Jaguars are a little bit more consistent. The Chargers have more star power on that side of the ball who can make game-changing plays. But the Jags have a more cohesive group, and they're going to be at home, which definitely helps the team's defense. So what defense is going to be able to make the key play? What offense is going to be able to sustain drives and put up points more consistently? I think is going to be the outcome of the game. Both teams have great quarterbacks. Both teams have a good running game with Austin Eckler and Travis Etienne. Both teams have pretty good weapons and a solid defense, and I think these teams are fairly evenly matched. I think the Chargers have a slightly better roster, but being at home and making the Chargers travel across the country to play you is definitely an advantage for the Jaguars as well. And I think Vegas agrees with that as well because the Chargers are only a 1-point favorite. But with my pick and what my gut is telling me to take, I think the Jaguars are going to shock a lot of people and win the game Saturday night. That home atmosphere against the Titans this past week was absolutely electric. I think it's going to be a madhouse once again, especially being on prime time. I think in the end, Trevor Lawrence will just make a few more plays than Justin Herbert, but this game will be definitely close and down to the wire, and I could 100% see it go either way. I'm just going to take the points and roll with the home team here. But if I had to pick one game from this entire weekend that I expect to be the best, it would be this game. I do not see either team getting blown out. I think it will be a very highly contested ball game with a lot of scoring, but in the end, the Jaguars will win their first playoff game since 2017 at home and make it into the divisional round, which will be a fantastic storyline. But let me know who you think will win this game. It's definitely a pick'em game and probably the most tightly contested game we'll see all weekend. If you're rolling with the Chargers, let me know your reasoning behind that. But thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and drop a like on the video if you guys did enjoy it. Be on the lookout for my other wildcard preview videos. They'll be coming out shortly. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.